Don't know if I can preach now. That's right. Well, instantly taken back 40, 50 years. Oh, man. It was very, very good, Mom. Hold on, give me a minute here to recuperate. See, after Mom sang, Dad's supposed to be the one to preach, and me and my brother were over here cutting up sometime. Some way, not sometime. And so, give me a second. Man, we went with Mom to the funeral homes. I don't know how many times we would sit and wait for her to sing, and she would often sing that song. It brings back a lot of memories. Funeral home director was cool though. He would buy us a Coke. A little Coke for us while we waited. Dad would do the service. We're going to continue on in Nehemiah. And this morning we're reading chapter 2, verses 1 through 20. And this is the second part of last week's message, the two-parter. And so I want to do a little recap. Previously on Nehemiah, like they do on TV shows, and do a recap, we saw that Nehemiah was of the Jewish faith, living in Persia, the capital city of Susa. Persia was in control, was a world power at that time, taking over from Babylonia. And Nehemiah had a prominent position in Persia. He was the cupbearer for the king. And one time a group of Jews from Judah came to Susa, and Nehemiah asked how it fared with their people in Judah. And they said, not good. Not good. That the land is very chaotic, troubled. The wall around Jerusalem has been torn down. The gates are burned up. And very unsafe, unsound. And Nehemiah reacted in two ways. He had a twofold response. He was grieved to hear this bad news about what was going on in Jerusalem. It hurt him. He felt for those and what they were going through, and his heart went out to them. And you can see right there how faithful Nehemiah is to God, and how close he is, because he cares about what's going on with other people. That's a telltale sign right there of someone who has a good, close relationship with God, is that they care about what's going on with others. God has that effect on us. He makes us sensitive to what is going on with people. If we love God, we will love others. And then Nehemiah responded with prayer and fasting and prayer for several days. And he prayed for the situation in Jerusalem, in Judah, and for the people and what they were going through. One of the best things that we can do for others is to pray for them. And as Nehemiah prayed, he got to thinking about what God needed done, what God wanted done, and he came out of prayer wanting to help out. And this is another thing about prayer, is it gets us in touch and in tune to God's will, and encourages us and inspires us to help God out in some way as we pray. I like what Richard Foster wrote about it. This is in his classic Christian book called Celebration of Discipline, which is considered to be like one of the best Christian books ever written. Celebration of Discipline, about different disciplines of the Christian faith. He wrote this on prayer. People who really pray, not just analyze it or dissect it, but actually pray, become more loving, more sensitive to others. Prayer always has a social dimension to it. Prayer, to be real prayer, doesn't take us out of the world. It sends us into the world and excites our endeavors to heal the world. And so we see this with Nehemiah, being close to God. He has a concern for others. When he heard what was going on with Judah, it hurt him, and he prayed for them, and then came out wanting to help. And what God laid on his heart to do was to take a group of people, exiles there in Persia, Babylonia, and go to Jerusalem and rebuild the walls. And that's what we see going on in chapter 2. There's a lot of drama involved in doing this, as far as getting permission from the king, traveling there with a group of people, rebuilding the walls, seeing what needs to be done, and then the opposition to doing that. Let me read chapter 2 here. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was served him, I carried the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. So the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This can only be a sadness of the heart." Then I was very much afraid. I said to the king, "May the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my ancestors' graves, lies waste, and its gates have been destroyed by fire?" Then the king said to me, "What do you request?" So I prayed to the God of heaven. Then I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor with you, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my ancestors' graves, so that I may rebuild it." The king said to me, the queen also was sitting beside me, "How long will you be gone, and when will you return?" So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a date. Then I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, let letters be given to me, to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may grant me passage until I arrive in Judah." And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's courts, directing him to give me timber to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall occupy. And the king granted me what I asked, for the gracious hand of my God was upon me. Then I came to the governors of the province beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent officers of the army and cavalry with me. Then Sanballat, the Horonite, Tobiah, the Ammonite official, heard this. It displeased them greatly, and someone had come to seek the welfare of. It hurt them greatly, displeased them greatly, that someone had come to seek the welfare of the people of Israel. So I came to Jerusalem and was there for 3 days. Then I got up during the night, I and a few men with me. I told no one that my God had put into my heart to do what to do for Jerusalem. The only animal I took was the animal I rode. I went by night, by the valley gate, past the dragon's spring, into the dung gate. And I inspected the walls of the dung gate. Dragon's spring. And I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that had been broken down and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. Then I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the animal I was riding to continue. The destruction was so bad. So I went up by way of the valley by night and inspected the wall. Then I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. Made a complete circle around Jerusalem, checking out the wall, the destroyed wall and destruction. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing. I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, and the rest that were to do the work. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with its gates burned. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem so that we may no longer suffer disgrace. I told them that the hand of my God had been gracious upon me, and also the words that the king had spoken to me. Then they said, let us start building. So they committed themselves to the common good. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they mocked and ridiculed us, saying, what is this that you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? Then I replied to them, the God of heaven is the one who will give us success. And we, his servants, are going to start building, but you have no share or claim or historic right in Jerusalem. God laid it on Nehemiah's heart, as he mentions here, to rebuild the walls around Jerusalem, make it safe and secure. And this was difficult. This was a difficult thing to do. Don't know that God ever asked us to do something easy and cushy. Always going to be some difficulty in doing what God wants us to do. And we see this with Nehemiah. Lots of obstacles that he faced to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. And that's what grabbed my attention with this passage here, is the obstacles that he faced to do what God wanted him to do. I mean, one of the obstacles was that he had to go to the king and get his permission to go to Jerusalem. And it's a difficult thing for him to do. Made him a nervous wreck to do this, you can tell. I mean, you don't walk up to the king and put your arm around him and say, hey, I got a favor I want to ask you, buddy old pal. No, there's protocol, there's etiquette, there's things you do, things you don't do. And so Nehemiah was fearful about doing this. You can see that in the passage. When he was serving the king, and the king saw his sad face, he asked what was going on, and Nehemiah here said, then I was very much afraid, to bring up the matter. And then when the king said, well, what did you want me to do? He said, so I prayed to the God of heaven, said a quick prayer before he made his request. A very fearful thing for him to do. I wonder how many false starts he had. Like, he said to himself, okay, this is the day I'm going to ask the king to go to Jerusalem and rebuild the wall. And then when he got the king's presence, he was like, no, not today. Tomorrow was a better day to ask him about this. And I'm sure he was tempted to drop the matter. It just makes me a nervous wreck. I can't do this. I can't go before the king like that and ask him. Oh, I'm too scared to do this. I'm just going to play it safe. And God will ask someone else to do it. Well, Nehemiah was tempted to quit on this. He fought through it and overcame that obstacle. Another obstacle we see here is traveling to Jerusalem with a group and getting there safely. I read that it's about a 900-mile trip to go from Susa in Persia to Jerusalem. And take about 3 months to do that. He's got a group that he's taking there, and it's going through hostile territory. You see here that the king gave him an escort, and that just points out that this is a dangerous trip that they're taking. And so I'm sure that Nehemiah, after he was thinking about this and the details of what he was going to have to do in traveling through that dangerous country, was tempted to call it off. This is thing, I might be killed. All this going might be wiped out. It's too risky. I think I'll just call this off and stay home. Play it safe. Maybe God, I'm not the one to do this, maybe God will ask someone else to do it. But Nehemiah was tempted to call this off. He fought through it and overcame this obstacle. Another obstacle that I see here is the building of the wall. Notice when he got there, he didn't tell anybody his plans there in Jerusalem. He wanted to see how big the project was, how bad the destruction of the wall was. And so he and a few other guys during the night got up and did a tour of the wall to see just how bad it was. And it was bad. It was almost totally destroyed. And it's going to be a big project to rebuild it. It wasn't repair the wall, it was basically rebuild it. And so this I'm sure this was a daunting task to him. He's like, man, this is going to be a lot of work. I don't know. I mean, what do I know about building walls? I've got the wrong person here. I'm going to have to recruit a lot of people to help. This isn't what I'm capable of. Am I capable of doing this? And may have been tempted to drop it, pack up, and go back to Susa. If he was, he fought through that temptation and overcame the obstacle. Then a final obstacle I see here is the opposition to rebuilding the wall. These ones who are mentioned here, Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, these are high-ranking officials of the countries that surround Judah. And they don't want Jerusalem rebuilt. They like them to be in ruins and under their thumb. And they want to be strong and independent. They want to stay as they are. And going to make it tough for rebuilding the wall. As we see, they get started here with the mocking here. And next week we're going to look at just how hostile they became to the workers and the ones who were going to rebuild it. And this may have been daunting to Nehemiah as well. He didn't realize, hey, Lord, you asked me to do this, but I didn't realize what the opposition to it would be. I mean, they're very hostile here, violently so. And, maybe this isn't for me, Lord. You need somebody else, more capable. I don't like to stir things up. I don't like controversy and confrontation. And maybe I should just pack up and go back home and get someone else, Lord. He was tempted quit this, he fought through it and overcame this obstacle as well. And all the obstacles that he faced to rebuild Jerusalem, he overcame them, fought through them and overcame them. It was a difficult thing. What helped him was that God was with him, helping him, and he knew it. He knew that he was not doing this on his own. And he mentions it several times in these 20 verses here, where he prayed to God. He mentions the gracious hand of my God was upon me. It says here that my God had put into my heart to do for Jerusalem. The hand of my God had been gracious upon me. God of heaven is the one who will give us success. God wanted him to do this and was going to help him do it. And Nehemiah knew it. And it helped him in his determination to see this through. Did you hear about the pastor who felt that God wanted him to help people with their light bill? For a few months, he had been getting a lot of calls from ones in the community that needed help with their light bill. And the church did not have a benevolence fund to draw on to help with this. And so the pastor referred them to a charity in town. Well, he felt for these who were struggling, and he felt that God wanted the church to help them out. And so he went to the church and asked, hey, can we set up a fund to help out people with their light bills? And the church turned him down flat. Said, no, that's what charities do, not what churches do. This discouraged him, and he dropped the matter. Obviously, he hadn't read Nehemiah in a while. And Nehemiah's determination to do what God wanted. Did you hear about the Sunday school teacher who felt that God wanted her to reach out to kids in the neighborhood with the gospel? She noticed that there were a lot of kids in her neighborhood and community there that weren't going to church. She would leave on Sunday morning, they'd be out playing, or when she got back from church on Sunday, they'd be playing. And she invited them to come to church, invited them to Vacation Bible School, but they didn't come. And so she felt that God wanted her to take the church to them. And got the idea to have a Vacation Bible School in the little park that was there in the neighborhood. Went to the town council, asked permission to have a Vacation Bible School, and they said no. They can't support a religious function, separation of church and state, and so no. This discouraged her, and she dropped the matter. Obviously, she too hadn't read Nehemiah in a while, and his determination to do what God wanted. Did you hear about the older church member who felt that God wanted him to go on a mission trip to Ukraine? He had been watching the news for several months and seeing particularly what was going on with Ukraine and the war, and how a lot of people were struggling. And his heart went out to them, and he felt like God wanted him to go on a mission trip to the Ukraine to help out in some way. Talked it over with his family, and his family said, no. It's too dangerous over there, and you're too old. This discouraged him, and he dropped the matter. Obviously, he too hadn't read Nehemiah in a while. Nehemiah's determination to do what God wanted him to do. We, though, have read Nehemiah. We read Nehemiah last week, we read Nehemiah this week.